Okay, so we all know in business, your ability to grow, to scale is dependent on how well you work with and through other people. And so if you want to grow beyond six figures, the secret is usually figuring out how to start building systems and bring people onto the team and start to delegate out those tasks. This is where most entrepreneurs flounder. They burn out because they hire somebody, they bring them in, and then they're immediately disappointed by the fact that they don't seem to get it. They were brilliant in the interview, but now this person just turned into an idiot. They can't seem to follow any directions. They can't get anything done. Everything takes longer and it comes out at a lower quality than you could have done. And so you end up taking things back. And instead of coaching them and training them, you take things back onto your plate. And then you're wondering, why is that person even on the team? And then you're like, well, let me just get rid of them. I'm never hiring again because I tried that once. It didn't work. It just ended up making more work for myself. They broke everything. And then you stay into this cycle where you just are forever going to be small until you eventually burn out and you die. If you want to avoid that, and I think you do, here's a 3-step process that I think about when it comes to onboarding new employees. Because the problem isn't that the employee sucks. It's just you've put them into an environment where they are destined to fail. And it took me a long time to figure this out, is that the reason most employees fail is because the environment that you put them in, it was designed so that they were almost guaranteed to fail from the word go. So 3 things I like to do to ensure that a new hire comes in and they immediately start making a positive impact on the team. The first thing is to create a work with me document. This is, we were talking with Anuj about it. He just created one for his little business and he's like, it was amazing. The work with me document is very simple. It's you sitting down and writing out in detail all of your quirks and foibles and things that you like and don't like about being in the workplace, things that make it hard to work with you or things that you expect. And you get really clear about setting that expectation. I don't like it when people do this. This is how I like to be communicated with. Don't call me, text me. If it can be an email, I'd rather an email, right? Whatever the thing is that you have. It's a quick 2-3 page document where it lays out how people can work with you best. That way, you don't have to wait for this poor sap to step on your toes and do something wrong because they don't know how weird you are. So tell them, here's how weird I am. Here's how to avoid getting on my weird side. Here's what it looks like to be an all-star and how to work with me. And here's what you need to know is that sometimes I get cranky and sometimes if I didn't have my lunch, then, you give me a wide berth. I'm not in the best place. Or the mornings are for my creative work. My afternoons for my administrative stuff. Don't interrupt me in the middle of creative, whatever. Be very clear about what the person needs to know about you and what makes you unique, both your strengths and your weaknesses. And tied into this then is, this isn't just for you at the top of the business, right? Everybody should have a document like this. Your direct reports should create this document and they should give it to you. And that ideally is one of the very first things that you have a new hire do, which is, hey, day one, here's my document. I want you to go create one for me. So I know what I'm dealing with you, right? Because we went through the interview process and you were lying to me about how hard you work and your weakness is that you care too much. Okay, cool. Actually put it down on the document now and tell me your weirdness so I know what to look out for, right? Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is you need to have SOPs. You need to have standard operating procedures. You have to have a playbook. Most of the time that we bring people in, it's not that they're slacking, it's that they're lacking. They're lacking the tools and the resources and the knowledge. They don't know what you do in the business. They don't know how you do it. And if you haven't been taking the time to actually document it, create checklists and processes that somebody could follow to execute the thing, then of course they're not going to do it up to your standard. So you have to go and you have to create operating procedures for pretty much every role in your business, every task that needs to get done. This is easier than you think. It doesn't need to be this massively time-consuming process. I've documented this in other podcasts, but in short, what you do is you record yourself with Loom or something doing the activity, talking through the activity as you're doing it, and then you take the transcript, you put it into ChatGPT, you say, turn this into an SOP, a checklist that somebody could follow. You take that checklist and the video, you give it to the person, you walk them through it, and then you have them do it. And then they record themselves doing it, create their own checklist off of it, and then voila, you have a process. It's easy because all you're asking somebody to do is document what you're already doing and talk through it as you're going, and then let ChatGPT do the rest. Now, here's the secret of why SOPs often don't work, is especially when it comes to new people. somebody coming into your business for the very first time is probably overwhelmed. They're probably stepping into this brave new world with all these people that are all competent in making an impact on the team. They all know what they're doing. And now there's little old you over here, and they're probably an A player because you wouldn't hire somebody that's not an A player, right? And so they're used to being meaningfully contributing to the team. And now they're not. And so they're like, what do? I feel like I'm kind of in the way, right? So what you need to do is get them context as quickly as possible to understand the holistic view of the business, not just their department, not just their role, because that's so zoomed in, they can't understand how it connects to everything else. And so what I like to do is to take your SOPs and map them out through value engines, where you map out your fulfillment, your marketing, your sales, all your different departments of the business. You map them out in a flow chart and you walk through from beginning to end. It starts at this point. The sales process begins when this happens, and then this next thing happens, and this next thing happens. And this is the person responsible for this step. And here's where you could click to find the SOP that this person follows when they do this step, right? And you map it out, the whole sales process, the whole delivery process, so that a new person, they can sit down and they can wrap their head around the business. They can go, I see how this all works. I'm just the customer service rep. I don't need to know the whole sales process. I don't need to see all this stuff, but it's helpful for them to get their head around the business holistically as quickly as possible so that they can then understand how their little niche, their little sliver within the business contributes to everything else. So that's the number 2, is not just SOPs, but creating a value engine around it, a visual that somebody could go through and see the whole thing. Now, the third, and this is my secret sauce, is that, again, going back to the idea that when you hire somebody, they're stepping into an environment where they don't know anybody, they don't know anything, they don't know how you guys do anything. They want to be helpful, but they're just in the way. They want to contribute, but to do that means they have to ask a bunch of questions of other people that are doing other things. And so then they feel bad. And they're like, I don't want to be in the way. You're doing important stuff and I'm just new and whatever, right? We've all been there. So what you want to do is in that first 2 weeks is you create a special project for that person to own entirely. And you give them the first win. And this is so powerful. Because when they come in and you say, here's what you're going to do. We have this project. I want you to build this thing. Nobody's ever built it before. So you can't go wrong. Don't worry. You're going to do this and here's what it looks like. And you have the next 2 weeks. Here's the resources that you have. This is what you're going to build. That gives a person, one, a vision immediately, something to own, something to contribute to. They get to put their fingerprint on something, and it allows you to see how they work in an environment where you're like, hey, listen, there is nothing here already. So you have free reign to go build this how you want to build this. You see how they think through problems. You see how they come up with solutions. For instance, one of the very first things we hired a shipping manager a number of years ago at Escape. One of the very first things was, hey, we have all this inventory over here, and we want to figure out how to store it over here. So come to us next week with three different solutions for how we can do this. Cool. They came back. Okay, I looked at this option, but here's the pros and cons. I looked at this option. Here's the pros and cons. Here's this option. Here's the pros and cons. Cool. Which one do you recommend? And they go, that one. Cool. Do it. So now what do you need to do it? Oh, I need this and this and this. Sweet. Here you go. The next week, they went and executed it. Voila. By the end of 2 weeks, this person had owned the process. They felt like a meaningful contributor to the team. And this is a project that's not taking up all their time and energy, but it's something that they get to own. So at the end of the day, they get to go home to their loved ones and be like, how was work? They're like, it's awesome. I'm working on this thing. They actually gave me a project to own. So think about that for every new hire. Is how can you get them a win as quickly as possible? It's the same with your customers, right? When your customer comes in, there's this expectation of value, the reason that they bought the product or service in the first place. But that's probably going to take a while to get the value from that product or service, unless it's like push a button and get the result. Most things take time. So how can we get them their very first feeling of victory as quickly as possible so that they don't go into this abyss of 2 weeks before they see any progress? We need to give them a feeling like, oh, this was a good choice. We're making progress right now. And so in the same way that you try to compress the time between the big value that they receive and the first value that they receive, you do the same with your with your employees, because your employees are just another form of customer at the end of the day. Like, fundamentally, one pays you, you pay the other, but they're fundamentally the same, which is like there's an exchange of value and for cost of goods, right? So Start thinking about how can I give my employees that first win. They will stick around longer. They will be happier. They will be psyched on the jobs that they're doing. And you, my friend, will not be pulling your hair out nearly so much. So do those 3 things and you will hopefully solve one of the biggest pickles that we have as entrepreneurs, which is how to build rockstar teams. If you are still struggling with this and you have a 6-figure business, you want to make that jump to 7 figures, but you know you can't because your ability to recognize good talent, to train good talent, to retain good talent is lacking, then go to beyondtheapex.com, apply for our group coaching program. I'll see if it's a good fit, and maybe, just maybe, we get the opportunity to work together and scale you to the moon. That sounds pretty cool. If that's not for you, that's okay. See you guys in the next episode.